to order for January 9th. Commissioner Kenney is called. She is not feeling well, but she is on her way. So with that said, public input. Before we get into public input, Sheriff, you're here for some reason?
Yeah, I just wanted to
go ahead.
Welcome us to the county and say that if there's anything in the future as far as attending meetings, what you may be looking for.
Yep.
I know we used to present numbers a few years ago, so I'm not sure if you want to continue something like that.
Definitely.
Whatever other information.
Yep.
And then I want to introduce Chief Deputy Richard Young.
Yep.
Commissioner Sorensen, Commissioner Babson.
So Chief Deputy, second in command.
Second in command.
Just saying.
Yep. And Lieutenant Santuccio still is lieutenant, so. But I can use him in other aspects.
Okay. Yep.
Ready to use.
Go ahead.
Sheriff, thank you for coming. One of the things I would hope that you'd have somebody available in case we have a disorderly meeting.
Certainly, certainly.
Press the button and something pops up here.
Yeah. And I do plan on attending all of them, unless otherwise. I think the sheriff's meetings might be on the third Wednesdays of the month. So.
They have a capable assistant. So
but yes, someone will most likely be here every meeting.
I appreciate that.
So we can look to start that next week, I guess, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Any kind of report you can give would be appreciated.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to make a comment. I attended last sheriff subcommittee meeting. It was a very good meeting. There were questions asked. The sheriff was very knowledgeable, and he presented very good material. He did a good job.
Thank you.
Good. If you wanted to report anything on that subcommittee meeting, feel free to do so. I guess from what Commissioner Kenney said, everything went smoothly. And
yeah, for the most part. But we will be picking it back up, I think, the 24th for the second meeting.
At 2 o'clock.
Right.
Okay.
And it was just basically went through the lines, and I'll present them with some changes in the numbers so to assist them to make a decision.
Okay. As soon as we can't change the budget just based on a subcommittee. It has to be the full delegation, but it'd be good to keep Kathy Gary informed as to what changes might be coming.
Yes, yes.
As the subcommittee has developed them,
yep.
Approved them. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sheriff, is there any outstanding things you're looking for this year? I know you're part of the subcommittee, but give the Board of Commissioners a heads up. I'm looking for 8 new men and 7 new cars.
No. I mean, as presented, I mean, the vehicles, what we're looking for are in the current budget that was presented.
But nothing that unexpected?
No, not this year. The communications, there may be an issue in the next year coming as far as switches and stuff like that. That may be a little more money, but again, we can work with what we have hopefully this year and then present it next year.
Go ahead.
Sheriff, can you tell us how many Humvees do we have here and where are they?
2 of my knowledge. One is in the garage at the trailer for the communications trailer. And the second one, I believe, is parked at the Wakefield PD parking lot.
Are they using it?
It is there for access to them if they do need it. But as I may have said, I am looking to turn that one back in. But we will approach Wakefield to see if that's something they want to transition into. I know there's a process, and that will follow that process. So,
are we paying for the? Obviously, it has to be maintained a little bit, not much, but a little bit. Are we paying for it, or is Wakefield paying for it?
We would be responsible for it. I don't believe it's been used, so I'm not sure if any maintenance has been conducted at this point.
Has it been repainted?
That one has not been repainted, no.
Is it true this one we've got out here that was repainted was $4,000?
Yes, yeah,
For the
I don't know the
free, for the
exact
free
figure,
Humvee?
yes.
Thank you.
I think, is there any possibility of using that here on campus?
The one that we're
Humvee.
looking to keep or the second one?
The second one.
I mean, there's always,
I don't want to take it.
hopefully the unfortunate thing doesn't happen of, I mean, that was for a purpose of searches and for catastrophes as far as the floodings and stuff like that.
So it is restricted to certain conditions?
Well, that was the purpose of bringing it on board from the
Right.
first, from Sheriff Conway. So, you know, hopefully those things don't happen again, but that was its purpose. Beyond that, I'm not sure what you would use it for
Okay.
because of the cost to use it, the gasoline and
Right,
maintenance of it.
yeah.
So
Certainly,
we've got one sitting out in the barn ready to pull a trailer,
yes.
which won't get used, or basically won't be used because we've only used the trailer 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years.
That's its main purpose. I
Okay.
suppose you could use that if you do keep it for emergencies, to rescues or searches.
Is that the only vehicle we have to pull the trailer? Or do you have other
No,
cruisers?
I believe the four-wheel drives that we have were spec'd out to pull that trailer, so.
Okay,
And I know it has hooked up to them, so
okay.
those will work.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Can you just ask him what his intentions is with the prosecutor?
We are gonna phase out the prosecutor. There is a line item in the current proposal for the budget to try and keep him, but within the next 2 weeks, he will be phased out until that budget is passed either way. And then the deputies will take over prosecution.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public input? Anybody, public input? David?
We heard on, I think it was Monday, that there was some sort of disturbances with the registry of deeds.
Disturbance.
Well, they needed enhanced security.
I'm not saying, I wouldn't say that it was disturbances. I think the question or the issue was that people tend to walk into their office rather than taking the right and going around to the desk.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it may interrupt whoever's sitting at that first desk. And the people should go around to the counter. That's the only issue I think that was there.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? If not, then we'll go into the minutes of last week.
We need to go first in the minutes of December 19, 2012, old business.
December 19th, okay.
Yes, that was the meeting with the former board. That
Okay.
needs to be approved.
Yeah, are there any
And-
corrections to it?
No, and you read this, huh?
Yeah,
This was a while ago.
yeah.
I mean, this was not last year, it's not too long ago. But okay, I make a motion to accept the minutes of December 19, 2012.
I'll second it. All those, any further corrections on that? Seeing none, and all those in support of the motion say aye.
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 And I will abstain. I wasn't on the
Representative
board.
Babson abstains, he wasn't here, or wasn't a commissioner
I
at the
was
time.
here, but I wasn't on the board.
Right. All, and so voted.
And we have the minutes from January 2nd, 2013.
Mhm.
It looks very good. I think I have to only go over with Nancy about a little bit the outlay, that when we make a motion, we just have motion and then second, who seconded, and all in favor, that we have it by each other, because now we have to just read it in the rule, but in the sentences we have to read it. Just a little bit the outlay. So motion, second, who seconded, and all in favor, that we have that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry,
And-
Commissioner Kenney, I didn't understand. What is your problem with it?
I said if we make a motion, she just write everything in, then we go into second it, and I just want to have like who makes the motion, who second it, and all in favor.
Fair enough.
So I'm going to work a little bit with it about the layout, that we have a little bit different layout. And for the rest, I think it looks good. Does any one of the commissioners has any corrections added or deleted?
I don't.
Just a quick one in the last line in the second column up in the bottom. There's two suggested here, so just cross one of them out.
Okay.
I hear a motion.
No, I didn't. Where did you say?
First page.
The first page.
Take out one of those suggested.
Oh,
Just
okay.
cross it out.
Did you get it?
I think these are excellent minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is very good though.
Well
Yeah.
done.
And it was very fast. Just did. So I make a motion to accept the minutes of January 2nd, 2013.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. With that one suggested correction. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and then so voted.
By the way, Commissioner Kenney, thank you very much for guiding me in the right direction on these minutes. I didn't realize that Nancy had a strange email address, so when they came in, I dumped them thinking they were spam.
I did the same thing.
So, thank you for straightening me out.
I did the same thing. Okay, moving along. We had a subcommittee meeting on Monday with Regional Appropriations, County Farm. Basically, things went along pretty well. They had some questions and some things that some regional appropriations and cooperative extension have to come back with some additional information. The farm has to come back with additional information. I'm not sure when that's going to take place or how it's going to take place, but that's under the leadership of Mark McConkey. I think things went well. Do you agree, Commissioner Bass?
I thought it went very well.
Okay.
And I was particularly impressed with the debate that went on between Representative McConkey and Will DeWitt for the farm on the wood processor. Both sides brought their concerns to light, and I just thought it was excellent.
Okay. Then we'll move on with the agenda. Jason, please.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This morning our population is 45 in-house, 0 weekenders, 0 out on electronic monitoring, 7 transfers, 3 out on pretrial release, total population of 55. Took in 12 inmates last week, 9 were repeaters, and released 14 of them. County Attorney, Probation, Parole, and Defense Counsel met to discuss that New Hope program. I saw an email just the other day that Judge Horan is ready to implement the program as soon as somebody's identified for it. So it looks like we're going to be moving forward with that New Hope program. Sergeant Phillips attended a training on the Ohio Risk Management. It's a classification type program. He attended that training in conjunction with a representative from Northern Human Services. He has implemented that as part of our classification. It's a validated system. The state prison system has adopted it for the use in their system as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll be able to take inmates when they come in our door and relay that information out to probation parole when they hit the street. So it'll be a seamless transition so they can see how they classified while they were in our custody. Attended a press conference on Monday in regards to NAMI's position on the number of beds in the state hospital system. you may or may not have seen, that they've identified this as a crisis level. There was numerous people in attendance. The meeting was held at the Legislative Office Building on Monday. And they just described my words, inadequacies of the mental health system. Apparently, Commissioner Tupas has developed a plan in conjunction with NAMI. They're kind of working these issues out. People have been staying in hospitals for long periods of time. The state hospital system has been denying them admission, leaving the county jails and the hospitals to deal with people in mental health crises. And the thing that really they talked about was the fact that they're cutting these funds because of these people that are in these crises. However, there seems to be a differentiation between people that have mental health and things of like cardiac care. We don't cut funds to deal with cardiac care, but with mental health, it seems to be a stigma. So they want to address that. So, like I said, there was a lot of people that were in attendance to that. After that meeting,
excuse me, did the affiliate take any stand on that?
Yes. Commissioner McGlaris out of Stratford.
Okay.
He spoke for the Commissioner Council, and there was, and I can't remember her name, but she also represented the association and in support of increasing the beds for the New Hampshire Hospital.
Okay.
Yep. After that, we attended a meeting. It was a joint meeting from the New Hampshire Sheriff's Association and the Superintendent's Affiliate regarding a legislative change for corrections officers, county corrections officers, being recognized as peace officers in the state. We have expanded our functions, and there's what we need to do in order to make sure that we're doing it properly is to have some legislative changes. There's some proposed language for an amendment to the 30B series, which would take the security forces statute, which is for the state prison. State prison officers are statutorily recognized as peace officers, and with that comes various powers. So we want to adopt that same language in the 30B series. So out of that meeting, there was a committee made up of 3 sheriffs, 3 superintendents, and a county administrator to develop some language to propose for legislative changes. And then that will be all vetted out, and I imagine it will come back to the executive committee. You'll talk about it, and then we'll go forward with those things. Last week I spoke to Rob and Howie in regards to inmate work program in the nursing home.
Right.
Both of them were in full support. So now what we need to do is develop a training program for the nursing home staff, like dietary staff, and then develop some sound policies and procedures as to how this is going to take place. Good. We'd like to get all that in place prior to putting somebody in the kitchen to kind of put everybody at some level of comfort.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward on that.
Could you check with Grafton County and find out why they don't allow inmates in the nursing home? There must be some reason for that, whether it's, it can't be an RSA, but there's some reason that they don't allow them.
Okay. There was, when Sandy was here, she brought to my attention that I think there's a standard through the nursing homes that they cannot have any convicted felons working in the nursing home. That may be a reason why. I'm not sure. I will certainly reach out to Superintendent Libby. I'll see him on Friday because we have our superintendent's affiliate meeting on Friday. And I'll ask him that question.
Okay. All done?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This is the first time I've seen this sheet. Do we get this every week?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I've heard of
Can't
Bonnie
talk
and...
about any names.
I understand that. I've heard about Bonnie and Clyde, but this has got to be one that tops it. Is DOB date of birth?
Yes, sir.
And he was, 6 months after they were born, they were in prison. That's pretty good. I don't want to give the information, but obviously there. What I wanted to know, Jason, was, is there a possibility on the pretrial holds, to have another column of how long these people have been on hold.
Incarcerated, yeah.
I can give you a copy of my Superior Court list. We already produce a list for the Superior Court, per court rules. We give it to the Superior Court judge, the Superior Court justice in Concord, county attorney, and some other people. So I can certainly produce that list for Superior. For pretrial, for misdemeanor level offenses, in the furthest column to the right, under each one of those sections, you'll see the date of admission. So that will kind of give you an understanding on how long that those folks have been incarcerated.
Well, that's the sentenced ones.
On both levels, sir. Can I see?
I don't think so, Jason. The other column says date of birth.
You have, that's been cut off. There is one more column. You'll see that
Should be the same thing.
it should be
only
the
one
same,
column.
yeah. So you're missing that column on that
Can you hit the
side.
shrink button then?
Yep, I'll have it moved over. I can actually produce that report again.
And you saw the date on the one that's highlighted?
What's that?
That's a typing error, obviously.
Yep. Yep. I'll get that fixed.
That is, there's a lot of bank robbers wearing diapers, one of the two.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for pointing that out.
Any further questions?
No?
Okay, hearing none, then, thank you. Are you coming back for non-public?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chandler?
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. Go ahead.
I have
I'm
a few
sorry.
things to update you on. We're continuing to work on admission policy. Right now, I'm reviewing the policies of the county homes. One thing that I hadn't anticipated that need to include in part of the original things that I presented to you is that we didn't really make good provision for extenuating circumstances around hospice. And that does come up. Sometimes somebody's a county resident in a hospital, and sometimes they only have 2-3 weeks to live, and what we can do to help families in situations like that. Case in point, even this past weekend, we were having an expedited admission, but as it turned out, and it wasn't a fault on our end. They delayed it, but the applicant actually passed away before they were able to come in on Monday. And so we want to see what we can do to help families out at a very delicate and difficult time. So we're trying to fold that into things as well.
So these people were not residents and went to the hospital. They were in the hospital scheduled to come to the nursing home?
Correct.
Okay.
And just yesterday, Dr. Lewis called with another similar situation, not quite the 3-day, but
Yeah.
a 3-week, and we're working with him. Some regulations have changed that'll be effective in February that slow down admission process. It's called a PASSAR thing, or it's a preliminary assessment that needs to be done. And we're going to be working with hospitals and home care providers to see what we can't do. What we're going to need to work into our admission policy is what we can do on a preliminary qualification basis. What we can do ahead of time, even when we don't have a bed, how much of this paperwork for somebody who's near or at the top of the list can we do ahead of time, so that when we do have a bed, we can cut from 3 days to 1 day or 2 days.
What was the purpose for the delaying that's going to go into effect in February?
What'll probably never get told to anybody, the real reason is to discourage or eliminate unnecessary nursing home admissions. It's a risk management, a cost management aspect that the state's reasonably putting in. I mean, their goal is noble. I'm biased, but I don't believe they anticipated the aggravation that it's going to cause, especially to hospitals, more so to hospitals than it really will to us. But it is related. It's going to delay discharges from hospitals to nursing homes. but it is going to ensure that people who go to nursing homes are appropriately placed with all the appropriate information.
Was this an administrative rule change?
I believe it had to be out of Health and Human Services, whether it's the result of a statute. There's no statute change that I know of, so I have to believe that it's regulatory. It might have been mandated by federal requirements, which would be the logical thing. I'd have to believe that this is a state administrative interpretation of a change under Medicare and under Medicare.
Okay.
Do have a request for you that I bring to you from the resident council. They have voted unanimously to recommend to the commissioners permission to erect a flagpole at no expense to the county. In working in collaboration with one of our staff members, Asa Osgood, who's in the National Guard, they would like to raise the money and to install a 30-foot flagpole at the entrance to Mountain View. While they appreciate being able to see the flagpole tangentially, that's not the word, at a tangent to this building, and also at the Superior Court, they really would like to have their own. And what they're proposing is a single flagpole, 30 foot tall, fiberglass, white, and they total cost about $1,500, which ASA and the residents want to raise money for, if that's acceptable. And their goal, if it pleases the commissioners, would be to have it ready and installed for Flag Day 2013.
Great.
To dedicate
I think
it.
it's good.
I'll make a motion
I
that
think it's
we,
a good idea.
They're going to.
I'll make a motion that we give the residents' council the okay to go ahead to erect a flagpole. I don't
Second.
think it's necessary to say how high it is, how tall it is. Let them use their judgment. And let's move forward with it.
Where would it be located?
It'd be right in the center island before the,
Right in front of the,
right in front of the entranceway.
Yeah.
It would require, it would require taking down the street light, but
Yeah.
using that power, which would be needed for putting in a new fixture to uplight the flag itself.
okay, okay. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so voted.
And
Well,
who
thank you.
seconded
Great.
that? Who was the second?
I second.
You're going to have some very pleased residents there, but I think it's going to be a nice welcoming. And it'll also dress up that island. There'll actually be monies hopefully available that'll help with the landscaping of that island, help promote that,
Yeah.
make it a more attractive first impression.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice if there was a little plaque that was put next to the pole saying where the not who, from the Residents' Council, as a result of the Residents' Council funding, something to that,
I think that's a good
You know,
idea.
just to give them credit for that.
No, not, but it's, I'm glad you mentioned it now, because it's a lot easier to design that into the whole thing. Also want to report that I've started working with Correction Superintendent, Johnson, on the possibility of a work study program, and Rob Horace has been very involved and very supportive. So the idea of putting into place what we need to do in order to be able to better utilize house of correction detainees or inmates in working within Mountain View. There are some regulatory hurdles, but they can certainly be overcome in terms of getting the waivers we need from the state. It's a very common practice in the other county homes to be able to do this. But Rob is not only willing, he's actually an ardent supporter. And just so you know that I want to anticipate what some of the basic questions will always come up is, right now, it will not, I don't want to represent it as something that will actually save costs. It will improve quality of services, but in terms of, it's not going to cut labor, but it's going to give, in this case, Rob the opportunity to be able to reallocate hours to special projects, cleaning and the like, and provide a good, I think, a valuable service to the House of Correction. Other things that have been happening, while they're not big, they are moving us forward. We've started a staff newsletter. We've virtually eliminated overhead paging. Anybody that's ever been in Mountain View, and all of a sudden you hear this blaring coming on, you're hearing it very seldom, and we're almost at the point where it'll be eliminated altogether. The suggestion box is proving to be helpful and interesting and well used. Holidays went well, and we have seen a significant reduction in the use of agency staffing that is clearly attributable to the hard work and good efforts of Becky Mason, who's Director of Nursing. There's been quite a turnaround in that, which is a wonderful, it's an improvement in quality because we have our own staff working, and certainly at a tremendous cost savings too, because we're not paying a premium for outside staff.
We have full level of staff?
Full level of staff, and that's actually literally posted outside the office each and every day what the staffing is in all 3 shifts. Right now, we are averaging, in terms of direct care staff, about 4.5 hours of direct care staff per resident per day, which is wonderful. Which is some will say that it's never enough, and it never is enough, but it is certainly well ahead and better than most places.
Mm-hmm. Question before we go there. Becky Mason, is she the one that's responsible for submitting sick days and so forth for the employees over there, or who does that?
Well, that's a good. She is for the 2/3 of the staff, that health services staff, and each department head does separately. Now, I've worked out with Kathy Gary, who's been wonderful to work with. She started sending me last week a summary of the benefits that people have.
Right.
Because each of our department heads actually has to approve the payroll before it gets submitted. And up until now, they didn't know, let's say, how much sick time somebody had.
Yeah.
And it put the business office at a disadvantage. So now they know what it is, because our goal is, we don't want anybody being approved for benefits they don't have. We don't want them to go in the hole unless there's a compelling reason why it should be an administrative, exception.
Right.
And there's been no request for that. It was by mistake.
Yeah.
That people put in for sick time. Maybe they didn't know what they had. They didn't pay attention, and it was approved. And we have people going negative, which is not a good practice.
No.
So I think we now have the tools to eliminate that.
Okay.
Because I think when the business office were getting the payroll before, they assumed that it had been approved and reviewed, and didn't realize that we didn't have the information to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Go ahead.
Howie, can you tell me the number of personnel that work at the nursing home? Is it 206? That's the number I've heard.
The last number I heard was 197.
197.
So we're in the same ballpark. And now, in the
well, you're at 100% today, so I'm going to go with 197.
I think that's what it is. What sometimes happens is you get lists that are, there's active payroll, there's on-call staff, and so there's reason for it to vary, but it's right around the 200.
Okay.
200.
That is permanent staff.
That's
197 that are actually working.
Not per diems, not.
Well, that would include anybody on payroll, which also includes per diems, but most of our per diems are working. In fact, our per diems have to work at least monthly. So that's everybody on payroll. What I can get and should get is what I translate. A better measure sometimes is full-time equivalence.
Yeah.
Is taking the total payroll hours and dividing it by 40, so it doesn't matter whether it's 2 part-time people or one full-time person. Measuring the FTEs.
Would it be too much to ask for you to come in one of these weeks with an accurate number of people that are physically there every day or 5 days a week, rather than the per diems that come in twice a month? So we have some idea. Probably closer to 180 that work full-time.
Let me do a full staffing analysis.
Don't spend a lot of time on it, but I just like to have a handle.
Well, but it's helpful. In fact, we're meeting with CQI committee next Monday, and one of the things that I'm a proponent of is that you can't manage what you can't measure. So you have to have the data in order to know whether you're winning or losing, or to have some idea where you are. So, and this is pertinent data. So I'll be glad to do that.
I think you need to come in with something with clarification as to what is meant by the numbers that you come up with. Because you're right, there's per diems, there's part-timers. You can't go by the payroll because per diems are required to work certain periods of time. So it needs to be have some kind of clarification.
No, I'll take it. And that's all I have for you by way of regular report.
Okay, have you done anything regarding the committee on the trail?
In fact, I met yesterday with our director of therapy, who also wants to be on that committee.
Mhm.
I believe that Lisa Delisle is heading up the in-house part of it, and hopefully the plan is to set up a meeting for later this month. So to have the
Okay.
first, kind of have a planning meeting to put together a timetable for what we want to do, because spring will be here soon, and we want to be able to be sure that as soon as we can get into the ground, we can get started.
Yeah. I mentioned to you the Boy Scouts. We need to, if you could, possibly move up the organizational time rather than at the end of the month. The Boy Scouts are a little anxious because some of them are going to turn 18 or whatever it is, which would not qualify them for an Eagle badge. So we need to have something where they can come in at least and give a presentation as to what they can do, how they can do it, and what they can do to that group. So if you could move that up a little bit or move it along a little quicker, it might be advantageous.
Well, we might be able to do something special with them. I used to serve on the district Eagle Board of Review, and the idea, part of what goes into an Eagle project these days is less the work than it is the planning.
Yeah.
So if I can find out who these boys are, can actually bring them in to help plan the committee, which would make their project all the more sophisticated. So if I can get them in separately.
Okay. You need to talk with Dave, I think it's David Brooks. He's normally here in Registry of Deeds. He's been the contact with the local Boy Scout troops.
I'll call him and see if I can't meet with the boys privately even before the committee does.
Yeah.
And to essentially, maybe they would be interested or willing to serve as kind of volunteer co-chairs or assistant chairs to get them in. They could end up being quite a project for them.
Okay. There's another member that wants to be on there, and she is the chairman of the Cooperative Extension, Noreen
McDonald.
McDonald. She lives in Wolfboro, and I've got
Wolfboro,
her.
Brookfield.
Okay. Well,
I don't know, but it's in the telephone book.
yeah, and I have her address and email address and so forth, and I'll get that to you.
Because there was another gal on the Cooperative Extension Service.
Wendy Scribner.
Wendy Scribner.
She's a county
Okay.
forester.
Okay, and I know she's on the committee, and
Yeah.
she has to be. Okay.
Yeah.
There's the therapy department was very excited about the prospects of this being a multi-use path that involved both nature interpretation, physical exercise stations. I mean, they very much want it, and we involved yesterday their kind of area coordinator. So there's a lot of support for this trail.
Mhm. This Noreen McDonald is be a contact for, I don't know what they call it, AmeriCorps or whatever. She has apparently has the application. I talked with her Monday about it. She would be a good contact to move that along, get the application in, and get somebody working as soon as snow leaves.
Okay.
And Will, of course, is on that, going to be on that committee too.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got any questions regarding nursing homes?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Hold it for public comment, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold it for public comment. Go ahead.
Yeah.
In between, before Will comes up, we had an email that has come in from Commissioner of Health and Human Services regarding what the three counties in the North Country can do to use any kind of resources to address the issue of CAP in the situation that they're in for funding. It's just a preliminary question as to what can be done, and that's gone through the New Hampshire Association of Counties. I don't think we will be in any kind of a position to help with the financial situation, but would be open to listening. Will?
Morning.
Good morning, Will.
Willie, that was an excellent discussion yesterday on the wood processor. I think you did an outstanding job.
I tried my best, sir.
You did very well.
You met Monday.
A couple things that I had for the commissioners this week. Obviously with the snow plowing, I haven't been here in a few weeks, so some of this is just obvious probably, but snow plowing, pushing back the banks. We got 2 storms in a row there. I think we had about a foot on one storm and then about 5-6 inches on the other. So we had to push everything back to get them ready for the next storms, to be able to have places to go with the snow. Trying to stay on top of the sanding and the sidewalks and stuff. I haven't had too many complaints, so I'm assuming everything is going good. I've had a few compliments from some of the nursing home staff and or their significant others that drop them off during a storm. A lot of times that happens. So I think everything's going pretty good with there. We're trying to, you know, the more storms we have, last year we didn't obviously have very many storms. More storms we have with this new building, we're getting things established, getting a schedule established, which once my department is online with that, then it's making the employees easier to know where to park and so on and so forth. And things have been doing really well. I think the staff over at the nursing home has done very well. The dispatchers have done very well in parking out of the way for us. So everybody seems to be, you know, once in a while we have a car out of the way here or there. But overall, I would say that the employees have done very well. We've been processing more firewood. This week, obviously the temperature is a little bit warmer, so I've got more inmates out working. We've had, just this week, we've had 2 emergency wood orders from CAP, Tri-County CAP. Also had another order come in, and then we're trying to get ahead, do some more processing out on the landing for our campfire wood and such business. Been fighting breakdowns with this machine. You know, I was here pleading my case on Monday to the subcommittee about it, and while we're up here talking, I'm having constant problems with the guys down there working that I find out when I go back down. The thing they had it in the shop half the day yesterday working on it, trying to get it going good so we could finish filling the orders. Seemed to get through that order towards the end. The guy said it was iffy, so they're out now, seeing how things are going this morning. But it's just a day-to-day problem with this machine. Meter readings were done last week for fourth quarter meter readings. We've been cleaning. Last week was very cold temperatures for a while there, a few days of the week. So I had the inmates in doing a lot of shop work in the shop. One of the things we had is washing. You know, after the storms, we get a lot of sand and salt on our vehicles. I'm a big component of keeping them washed and waxed. So the guys were in there washing and waxing on a cold day, keeping them clean. Especially the sanding truck. Yes, yeah, we've done some preventative maintenance measures on that this year. We had the rhino liner put in to help with the sand that falls in there. Also, we took some rubber tubing and were able to put it around the chrome bumper in the back, because when the sand comes spinning off there, it was hitting the chrome bumper, and in one season it was already wearing the chrome off. So we protected that with some rubber. But after a couple of storms, it's good to take that out and spray it all down and get it all off anyways, even with the protection we have. So trying to do that. Mixing sand and salt. We had a couple loads of sand brought in last week, and we mixed that up to fill up our salt shed again, so that way we're ready again for some more storms. We've been, I would say that this year so far, tracking and looking at the forecast this week, I mean, we're doing pretty good, really. We haven't gone through excessive amounts by any means this year. We've had a good winter so far, and knock on wood, we continue that way. And then we got our chemicals in last week. Those are the hypochlorite that we get for the water department. once a year. We've changed up a couple of years ago. We changed from buying them, Alan used to buy them in bulk and get them every other year. Instead, I've changed to buying them every year because when you buy in bulk, it only has a shelf life for so long and it gets weaker. So then you're just using more of it to make up for that weakness, which doesn't really make sense to try to save a few dollars on shipping. So we've gone to, since I've been here, we've gone to try and buy every year. So it leaves its potency, which makes it easier on the operators also and keeps a more consistent level in our water system because he's not having to try to adjust it up and down and figure out where it is because of the potency of the hypochlorite. So we get those in. That's kind of a every year in December type deal that we try to do, as get those in, and we did again this year. So that's pretty much all I have on the sheet. I know there was a question I was asked about the insurance.
Yeah, we did get an estimate from the insurance company for the pole bond. We haven't received the check.
No.
But it should be about $10,000.
Yes, 10,000 plus. I have a copy of the email for you. I didn't print the front page on it. Don't have the front page of it, but I just thought this was the important part. Replacement costs of around $15,000. They took out our depreciation value, which I thought was kind of strange that the building's not fully built, but there's a depreciation on it already. And then our deductible out of there. But there is a thing down there at the bottom says that the depreciation can be recovered if we needed that money or whatever, if it was done in a certain amount of time and all the documentation was provided. I think Kathy Gary's still working with them. She's supposed to be calling them and asking them some different questions. But, you know, if looking at this, I think that we're going to be in good shape for replacement. I'm working on, I've already started putting a list together of what we're going to need to get. I want to continue that list and the idea and the plan. I want to sit down with Dave Senecal, our building inspector, go through it from top to bottom with him, make sure that he thinks we're doing everything good, and then start going forward. I think one of the things that we're going to need to do is do some more logging and get a sawmill in here again to get some lumber milled out to replace some of the broken stuff. And if we continue to have 30, 40 degree weather like we are right now, that's definitely something I would like to start in soon this winter and get them cut and get someone in here because we can work in this kind of weather if the snow's not too deep.
The radio this morning said after the 17th of January it's going to get colder.
Oh, really?
You believe the weather?
So we'll just, you know, we'll play it off to do the best we can with what we got and what Mother Nature gives us. But I would really like to get a jump on that and try to get some of the logs out and piled up at least so we can get somebody out here to start milling them up first thing in the spring and get going after this. My goal is to really, once everything starts to break up, I would really like to get back at this and get going instead of waiting. I know it's busy. Springtime is very busy for us, and summertime obviously gets extremely busy for us, but I would like to start going at it as quick as we can and putting all our spare time that I can get to put into it, so that way we won't be trying to rush it in the fall with it. We'd have the fall time to finish it if it takes that long.
On Monday they talked about maintenance of the complex. You're going to go back and look at past figures as to where your people spent the most amount of time on each of the different buildings.
Yes.
You're going to start that up again. I mean, you said you dropped it for 2 or 3 months. And your reasoning was that because the funding wasn't available from the different buildings or different departments. I think that's something you need to bring to us. If it's such that we're putting more time in, say for the administration building for shoveling snow or mowing lawns, and we don't have enough money in the budget for that, then you bring in your labor figures and we'll make some adjustments. I think you're doing a good job maintenance on the complex. For example, you put in the budget this year an extra $2,000 to do the drainage ditches, not ditches, but
Catch basins.
basins to be cleaned out. They haven't been cleaned out in a while. Those kinds of things, I think, are what you're on top of. So I think you're doing a good job as far as maintaining what you're responsible for on the complex.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get those numbers, start working on that again.
Yeah.
You know, it was ultimately probably my decision, my fault that we stopped doing that, but it just got to be where it seems like we need to change the system and the way we do it, because it seems as though the tracking system that we have is very labor intensive, not necessarily for my people. It's not always a problem for them.
Yeah.
But to put that into money figures and the journal entries and everything, you know, it was stressed to me downstairs that it gets to be a lot, and then if the money, you know, isn't there, it's like we're still going to do the work and put all this in, but we're not going to get the revenue because we're short on revenue. Nobody wants to add to their revenues, you know, and the other departments, because then it makes their budget, even though, in my opinion, it's kind of, you know, I label it as fake money. It's just we're going in a big circle here. It's not being charged to taxpayers.
It is, but it is giving us a figure as to what it costs for this
Right.
building and the other buildings. I think we, as Representative McConkey said, maybe we can come up with a different way of doing it that is more efficient, but I think we need to do that. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but it is a paper shuffle, and if we don't do that paper shuffle, then the farm or the maintenance department is not going to get credit for what we do because it's not documented. So I think we need to come up with some way, a process of doing that that's more efficient than maybe what it is now.
My suggestion on Monday was, as Representative McConkey kept talking about the pie chart, somehow track for either ahead or behind, if we can do it, how much time was spent on each facility, and then you can just say, okay, 20% goes to the administration building,
Right.
25% goes to the jail, and then you don't have to worry about, well, I had a backhoe and a guy over there for 2 hours on Wednesday and again for 2 hours on Thursday, and eliminate all of that. Wouldn't be quite as accurate, but it sure would be time saving and more cost efficient than the way we're doing it now.
Basically, yeah, that's kind of what I suggested in the past, I think, is to kind of go to like a quarterly, if we figure out, kind of have an estimate of how many hours we're spending at each place, give kind of a quarterly, if, you know, we give Jason over to jail, we give, you know, Howie at the nursing home, we give Jerry over here, an idea of what it costs on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
They can budget for that, and then we just hit them, you know, quarterly or whatever, that they can do the journal entry and move it over to the farm. One year, if we have a lot of snow, then the farm takes a hit because we're out there doing more work. But on a year we don't have a lot of snow, the farm makes out. It's just kind of like a lot of your private contractors that do snow plowing at different other places or
Some
jobs.
do it by the job, some do it on an annual basis.
Right.
Yep.
So there's many ways we can explore, but I'll definitely try to look into our history and get some numbers together first.
You know, I'm still confused as to where we have meters, water meters, propane meters. If that's something that Commissioner Babson and you could work out as to where we have them and where we don't, and what it would cost to put those in, if it's necessary, if we need to have them.
I can semi answer that questions
ahead.
for you right now.
Yep.
The new nursing home, the jail, and the admin all have propane
Okay, so
meters.
that's taken care of.
Those are all taken care of. How they're used and who checks them is not
Yeah.
on, I don't know.
Right.
I believe I know at the jail, Joe has told me he checks it, I think weekly or whatever, Jason has him check it. And I think Jerry checks the one here. I haven't
Yeah.
spoke to Bob, I'm not sure who checks or how often they check at the nursing home.
Okay.
Water meters, the complex does not have, as far as I know, does not have any water meters on our basically 4 big buildings here.
Right.
I have had EJP come up and spend a lot of time in giving us an estimate last year, because that question came up at the delegation.
Yep.
And I could look in my notes to find it, but I can tell you right now off the top of my head, it was around $10,000 or more on some of the different buildings have different amounts. Like the jail was a larger amount because they got a larger water volume going in there, same as the new nursing home. But they were in the vicinity of $10,000 to $15,000 to put those meters in.
Each?
Each.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's my recollection that we do have a water meter coming down from the well.
Yes, sir.
And we have one going down to the village, so we know what the total consumption is in this complex. And theoretically, we know what the total consumption is in the village.
Yes, sir.
Well, we have, go ahead.
Well, why is it necessary to know who uses how much water within the complex? They're paying they're paying to heat it. Just strictly for sewerage calculation to divide that up. Is that worth the effort?
Personally, I don't think it's needed. I think the way we're doing things right now is fine. Some questions have arose through the delegation members, I think, that want to know, I guess, maybe for budgeting or something along that lines. But what I believe happens, and you confirm this with Kathy Gary, is we have a reading at the top, then we have the readings for the village. She takes what the county uses, and she has a pie chart, a formula, that she charges a certain percentage to each of the buildings that's been determined on, I don't know where she got that pie chart, but it's something we've done for years here. Yep. And it seems to work.
It's an estimate.
It's an estimate.
So what's being used.
Yeah, and it seems to work. I mean, we have a total amount anyway, so we're just estimating which buildings use which. Yeah. To me, in my personal opinion, I think it gets the job done, and why would we spend $10,000 to $15,000 on individual meeting?
We know the total cost.
Right.
Why spend the money for another meter?
That's my opinion, but
the courthouse has a separate meter.
Yes, the courthouse has its own meter that it comes off, and we read that.
We have a special meter for the house up the road. We've got one house that's on our system before it reaches the complex.
I have to double check.
I don't know how that's measured.
I'd have to double check with Wayne on that, because I couldn't give you an honest.
Billy Allen's house?
Yeah, when you do that, find out if they're being billed for their water.
Right.
Yeah. There used to be a county building, and previous Board of Commissioners sold it. And that's how it got on our water system to start with.
I can get the details on that for you. But like I said, I can pull up those estimates to give you. I know they were in the vicinity of $10,000 to $15,000 per meter because of all the different plumbing that had to go on and the price of the meter.
Okay. Go ahead.
Change the subject?
Yeah.
Willie, have you, it seems far-fetched that they'd ever do it, but have you talked to the state about purchasing the sand and salt already mixed down here at the shed if you're only taking a couple of truckloads a month?
I haven't. And you're saying from the state is who I should look at?
Well, it's just a thought. I mean,
Right.
It's sitting down there in the shed rather than you come out here with a backhoe and start trying to mix it up. If it's already mixed down there, if we could buy a couple of truckloads a month, wouldn't that cover you?
Probably. I mean, I don't know what their expense is. To be honest, I've kind of done it the same way we've done it in a long time. A long time. We buy the sand and then we buy some salt, and I put it in one bucket at a time into the shed. And as I'm putting it in, we have the inmates throwing the salt in it and mixing it up. But I could definitely check. No, does the state? Do you mean aggregates, or are you talking about
No,
the
the
state?
state shed right down here in the
Right.
village.
Don't they have that all shut up though?
No, well, they've got a chain, they got it barred, so you can't go in and help
Right.
yourself to any equipment or salt, but they're in there all the time. It's just a thought. And the other question I had, do you think this is a reasonable estimate for these trusses? How wide was your building, 30 feet?
32?
34.
34?
$175 a piece? I'll bet they're a lot more than that.
I think.
Did you call over and bid a it and get a price, or?
I went off of what we paid for the ones that we bought,
Right.
and it was in that vicinity.
Did you buy, didn't these come down from a well shed we were gonna put up on the hill years
Most
ago?
of them.
Half of them.
Oh, so you did buy some?
I did buy some.
Okay,
Yep.
and that's a
That's
somewhat reasonable price?
right. That's what I remember it being. We spent the half that we bought. We spent give me just a second. We spent around $2,200 on the half we bought.
And how many was that?
And it was either, and I'm confused, I was trying to go back in my memory, of either 13 that we bought and we had 17 here, or we bought 17 and had 13 here. So it was pretty close to half, and we spent around $2,200. So I think that figure is pretty good, I believe. Obviously, when I call, we're gonna have some replaced, and I can call down there.
Why don't you send a sketch over to Bitterford and have them give you a price on how many you need? 30 of them, and see what they give you for a price, and see if that's an accurate price.
We don't need 30 trusses.
That's the debate we're doing, is that some of them are fine, so we may not have to buy a whole 30. I don't know. I got to talk with some more people on, like Dave Senecal,
And didn't
probably.
they come out of Rochester?
They came out of Middleton Building Supplies.
Middleton?
Middleton is who we bought them from. LaValle is who makes, they hold their stuff. And they actually came right up to the farm here and looked at the ones we had in the barn, measured them out, and built the other ones to match those. So we'll probably be able to do the same thing if we're able to reuse them. They'll be able to do the same thing there.
So anyway, the price is reasonable then?
I think so, yes.
The estimate?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else, any further questions for Will?
No.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh. Actually, while we're on that topic, at some point, Commissioner Babson, I was hoping that we could get together and, with your contacts in the metal industry, look at some bigger brackets on the ground that we talked about. On those instead of the ones that we had. Maybe we can look at, if we got the money here, that we could look at buying some heavier duty type brackets.
Okay. Thank you, Will.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Robin? Gordon?
Good morning.
Good morning. You got
You're gonna
something?
mumble today?
Yes,
That was one of the deficiencies on Monday. You couldn't hear. Because we were sitting way over there and everybody was up here, so we're probably at fault too.
Some of us gave us a lot of sympathy too.
Yeah, yeah. You got something you want to report today? You're on the agenda?
not particularly, although I do want to bring up a new program that we're trying to get off the ground through probation. It's called New Hope.
Yep.
It's modeled on the program out of Hawaii, and it's more intensive probation supervision for a certain population.
Mm-hmm.
They had, we've been meeting with the defense attorneys and the superintendent, and Tri-County CAP was supposed to be, I think, a provider, but there might be some difficulties there, given what kind of financial situation they're in. But Judge Horn's on board with it, so we'll be looking at trying to get some sort of numbers of population into that program as opposed to just being on straight probation without services. Of course, the problem in Carroll County has always been that there are not very many programs.
Can you tell us a little bit about this program, Rob?
Just that it's a more strict supervision. What they do is they sit down early on with a defendant, even prior to sentencing, start talking about the program. It's just that it's more supervision on a more regular basis with substance abuse counseling, maybe some domestic violence counseling if necessary. They'll do an analysis of what it'll take to make this defendant successful in the community and set out a whole treatment plan, and it'll be monitored through probation. So there won't be any cost for that particular piece, but there will be a cost for programming, substance abuse or batterers. And generally, it's always that the defendants have been ordered to pay that. However, I guess I would like you to at least start thinking about maybe providing some scholarship money. And I don't know what that cost would be, but maybe once we get going and look at a treatment plan and just see what kinds of costs are associated with it, that if a defendant is absolutely unable to but would be a really good candidate for this program, that the county would be able to support financially a little bit.
That's the program that Jason talked about, New Hope, that the affiliate, the superintendent of the jail and the sheriff's departments apparently got together.
Yep. Yep.
And formulating some kind of a plan. Now, isn't that New Hope in existence in another county somewhere?
It probably is. I don't know that,
was
but I
thinking
know
it was
it's like Stratford County.
but
It could very
They
well be.
have
It's
a drug
nationwide.
prevention that I went down with
Mhm.
Jason one day, but that's not the New Hope program.
No, that's the
Right.
drug court.
Yeah, drug court, that's
Yep.
right.
And I can tell you, I've gotten an email from Chuck Henderson, who's a real strong supporter of drug courts, and the Chief Justice of the Superior Courts, Tina Nato, has got a plan in place that she wants counties to really focus on drug and mental health courts and be working towards those kinds of programs. So I've asked Jason for some numbers about our recidivism rate, who's coming back to the jail and why.
Mhm.
So we can figure, I mean, our population is low. We've got, I think, 45 inmates this morning.
Yeah.
And what has happened historically is that when we had, what was the academy program, which was a sort of a diversion,
Mhm.
but programming, we didn't have the population numbers to support a program here in Carroll County, so we tried to partner up with Stratford County. And that had all kinds of problems with transportation for inmates,
Yep.
getting there. So I think it's smart to look at the numbers, who have we got, I've asked them, who have we got in our facilities that are both mental health issues and drug issues, and maybe we can start looking at programs specifically for that. I mean, it's the cost of having an inmate in the jail. Jason, in fact, just told me this morning that it's probably, last year it looked like it was around $80 a day. So the
And
costs are down.
with fewer inmates, the cost goes up.
Yep.
We still have the same number of correctional
Right.
officers and so forth.
Yep. So I don't know at what point it becomes cost effective. I
Yeah.
guess it'll depend on, all kinds of factors, including how much
Right.
the services are going to cost.
Yep.
But if we can get more productive members back into the society as opposed to just in a revolving door, we're all better for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Robin, what can we do about habitual offenders? What do you have in the law? I mean, it seems a shame to me that we've got two of them out here that are perfectly capable of being good citizens, other than they like to speed maybe. And we have them out here at $80 a day. I realize there would be a legislative change we'd have to make, because there's no such thing as a work license, I don't believe, is there?
No, there isn't.
Would that be helpful?
I think in certain cases it probably would be, if it were discretionary, not a mandatory. I mean, you have to work hard to be a habitual offender. You have to work at it. I mean, there's two categories of motor vehicle crimes: the major offenses like DWI, operating after suspension, and then you have the other category of speeding tickets. So in a 5-year period, you need to get 3 major offenses or 15 minor offenses in 5 years. Or they can be mixed matched. You can have a combination. What happens then is that once that happens, you get called down to the Division of Motor Vehicles to have a hearing with a hearings officer. And they go over the record, and the hearings officer makes a determination whether this record is accurate or not, and they impose a period of time, loss of license, for it can be a year up to 4 years. If you drive when you are under that period of suspension, then it's a felony habitual offender. So you really have to work hard at it, and I agree, the changes have been made. It used to be that it was a mandatory 1-year house of correction, 1-year state prison, and that got reduced finally and finally. Now we have some different categories where it's a defendant has the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do 14 days in the house of corrections and then serve the remainder in home confinement. But there's still the loss of license is there. Now, as you say, some states do have a work permit. We don't, and that would have to be a legislative change. Which I don't think is, I don't have an opinion one way, that in some cases would be a really good thing if somebody has a job,
Well, if they don't have a license, the chances are it's going to be far more difficult for them to get a job. They're going to have to count on somebody else to pick them up and drive them home every night. And to me, that even in itself might invite more trouble with somebody else wanting to stop somewhere while you sit in the car. It just bothers me that we're paying $80 a day and we've got not really violent criminals. Forget the DWIs; those are different. But the kid that's been picked up for speeding, going 10 miles over the speed limit or 5 miles, we all do that every day. But
Don't get caught.
They're right. I'm not admitting guilt here.
I'm taking notes.
To me, something should be done.
Weren't you just in the legislature?
Yes, but I didn't come across this problem till just recently.
Yeah.
Talking to them,
Yeah.
talking to the inmates working on the firemen. I realize it's got to be a legislative thing, but
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I think that in some cases it certainly would make a lot of sense.
thank you.
Two things regarding what took place on Monday. My understanding now is that you are not supporting putting in the cubicles as was recommended by the previous county attorney for privacy reasons. So we're not going to be putting in new walls or anything in your facility.
That's correct.
Okay. Second, I did look at the increase for the part-time secretary.
Oh, good.
She is, from what I can gather so far, is not up to par where other secretaries are, and therefore probably needs to be given what was recommended
Thank
to
you.
bring her up to par with,
Right.
with what qualifications others have.
Great.
So,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
anybody else have any questions for county attorney? If not, thank you. You got
Thank you.
anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a 2-minute coffee break here.
Sure.
What, we have a break now?
Yeah, we can have a break. We're ahead of schedule by 2 minutes, so
I did?
we'll just break for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
It's not a felony, it's all speeding.
In order again, and Mr. Rich, I asked Mr. Rich to come in to give us sort of an update as to where we stand on items that he's responsible for. We do have a maintenance contract, but we also have different priorities that some of our equipment needs to be replaced, and it's on a schedule. So just give us a little briefing, maybe of what has happened in the past, like maybe back in December, what took place here at this building, and bring us a little up to date as to what's progress are being made.
Well, a little bit of history. About not quite 2 years ago, when Cybertron was brought into this county, these offices, we did a complete evaluation of the administration building as well as the nursing home. And what we found was that 90% of the equipment was 5.5 to 6 years old or older. Going back, we had a significant number of machines dating back to 2002, which of course at the time were 8.5 years old and now 10 years old. And that also includes the servers here for the administration building, which handle the county attorney, business office, human resources, Jerry and maintenance as well as the nursing home. Those servers were put in 2005, both here in this building as well as the nursing home. The servers here were in pretty bad shape. And while the servers at the nursing home were also just as old, they were working with fewer problems. So the priority was for 2012 to replace the servers here in the administration building. And the servers at the nursing home are scheduled to be replaced in this calendar year 2013. Starting in November, we started the process of replacing the servers here in the administration building. And there were 4 servers servicing the county attorney business office, what I consider the main server that runs the whole network here in this building, as well as the email server, which services not only this half of the building, but also the sheriff's department. And what I did was we purchased one high-powered Hewlett-Packard server, and we implemented what's called virtual technology. So this one physical machine is actually acting as all 4 of those machines electronically. And that saved the county upwards of $10,000 by implementing this technology. I put this in, started the process, like I said, in November. And at this point, that project is probably 98% completed. It's just a couple little things I need to tweak. This past Monday, I was able to get the email published to the web. So now you'll be able to retrieve your email from anywhere. By the end of the day, I will have instructions on all your desks as to exactly how to do that. So you'll be able to log into your email from outside the office. One of my tasks for today is to get the process so that anybody with a smartphone can get their email back on their smartphone. That's the remaining task. As far as workstations go, we have cycled out most of those old machines. We have 2 remaining here in the administration side of the building, and those are scheduled to be cycled out this year. The sheriff still has a few more in his department. Those are also scheduled to be cycled out this year. Over at the nursing home, they just purchased a number of new machines at the end of last year, which have yet to be installed, but once those are installed, they will be completely up to date on their workstations. And as I mentioned, their server is scheduled to be done this year, once the budget is passed. And that pretty much brings everything up to date. The jail will be scheduled in the calendar year 2014. Their system is, most of it's from 2009. They have a couple of straggler machines that are older, which I believe are in for this year's budget, to get those really old machines cycled out this year. But one of the things that I've been able to do for the county is look at the whole big picture with all the departments and get us on a schedule where we can keep things up to date. In today's world, the life expectancy of computers and servers is 4 years. We're on a 5-year schedule. I feel comfortable with that here. And we've now got a rotating schedule where you're not going to be hit in any one calendar year with 3, 4, 5 departments all needing servers. And also by implementing the virtual technology, you're looking at replacing 1 physical box rather than, in this case, 4. And again, that all works to save the county money. You alluded to something that happened last month. You may or may not be aware that our email server had a hard drive failure back, I believe, the week before Christmas. And the physical replacement of a hard drive was pretty straightforward, although with the age of the machine, bringing that hard drive back into the array and rebuilding the array it was about a 7-hour process. I'm just sitting there letting it do its thing. There's nothing I can do to make it go any faster. But the hard drive failure corrupted the mailbox database. In that process, I made several attempts at repairing the database. What I found, as a little history, is that the hard drive started failing about midnight on that Tuesday night, Wednesday morning before Christmas. And our backup of that server happens at 2 a.m. So our backup was also corrupt. So I had the option of going back to Monday night's backup or attempting to repair the database. And I made 2 attempts at repairing the database, and those repairs, because of the age and speed of that server, took well over 20 hours per attempt, and they failed. So I restored Monday night's backup and cleaned up that data, and that's what we ended up going with. In the interim, I was able to manually retrieve Tuesday's emails from about half the employees here, but about half the employees on that server lost 1 day's worth of email. That was your exposure from doing that. And that whole process from the server failure to bringing it back online was 4 days, due strictly to the speed of that server. But that server is now being cycled out. The email has been moved over to the new server. I haven't completely taken it offline until I get all the little tweaks like the smartphones and things like that moved over. But the county attorney servers have been migrated over to the new machine. That server has been taken offline. The business office server has also been taken offline. And we're, like I said, we're just about there. Also, during the course of last year, during the course of the year, the sheriff's server, their server was also old by today's standards, about 5 or 6 years old. And one of the last things that Captain Myers had done before he left was he purchased 2 new servers for the sheriff's department. And we have migrated, over the course of last year, we migrated their information over to their new servers as well. Mm-hmm. So they're up to date. That's pretty much the status of the whole network. At this point, you're in very good shape.
One question I have, several, but where does all the old equipment go?
Right now, it's scattered between the server cage in the vault. The sheriff's department is in, I have a little room over there that I work in. It's loaded with equipment. I have the authorization from the sheriff, well, actually I had the authorization from the previous sheriff to take that equipment and we wipe the hard drives. There's a procedure which obliterates any data, and then those machines can be disposed of. Whenever possible, I repurpose machines. We have put a couple of machines on over at the nursing home for residents to use. They're old, they're slow, but it's something better than nothing. When the county attorney got new notebooks last year, they had a couple of desktops that were fairly recent. They got repurposed to Wanda and Betsy. The nursing home, we repurposed several of their machines to be used for training, for when the nurses need to do their online training, that type of thing.
Where are they stored?
See, at the nursing home, they have a couple of them in one of the conference rooms. They have one of them in Patty Kane's area, so that her training is a little bit different than other training.
Yep. Okay.
No, I want to go ahead and finish.
So, but I do have a whole slew of machines in this building that need to be wiped off and then disposed of.
When you say disposed of, what happens to them? Do we sell them? Do we just put them somewhere?
The nursing home had a significant number of machines that were, purchased from 02 to 05 that have been cycled out. And they contacted somebody that came in, picked them up, and gave the county a minimal amount of dollars for the contents. I mean, there's gold and other things, and they recycle them. So I would expect to do the same thing for this building.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I realize that it's John's responsibility, but I've been asking this question for I don't know how many years I've been on the delegation. What happens to these units? Every year there's 5 to 10 computers. You say we should be on a 4-year program. At home, I'm on about a 6-year or maybe even a 7-year program. And I think that we ought to have some process for getting rid of these, because I'm sure there's people that can't afford to go out and buy a $600 machine because theirs is 10 years old and would be very happy with a 6-year-old machine. And I'm sure the ones that have gone out of here are faster than the one that I have at home. And not that I want to buy one, but we got to have a better way of keeping track of them. They shouldn't be stacked in a room somewhere, becoming another year older before they go anywhere. And I don't know how we go about wiping the hard drives or how we go about getting rid of them, but we got to do a better way.
One of the that's certainly a valid idea. However, once the hard drive has been wiped, there is no operating system on these machines, and should we give them out to any member of the public, they would have to then spend money on doing something with them. And quite honestly, with the price of home grade machines that you can get at Staples and Walmart, it's just simply not worth it. You know, you can buy a home grade machine at Walmart for $400. You know, whereas you're going to pay any local technician at least a couple $100s to try and reformat one of these machines and make it usable, and it's still a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old machine.
So there's no way just to wipe out the data on the machine, is that what you're saying?
I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable doing that. If it's going to go out of our control, meaning the county, it's going to be completely wiped off. There is absolutely nothing left on these machines for security purposes. That way I can guarantee that somebody hasn't accidentally saved a file in a non-standard location or whatever. I'm not going to spend hours scouring every machine for that data when I can just simply plug a hard drive in and completely wipe it off.
Next question is, where are we on getting a hotspot in there?
I spoke with Jerry again this morning. He's scheduled to put the wire I need in on Saturday. Doesn't like doing that kind of work during business hours because it takes a lot of...
I wouldn't want them falling on my head. Right.
So that should be online sometime next week.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have a question too.
Yes,
You were
Commissioner.
talking about physical machines, you're going virtually, so you don't need all the servers. Is that what you're
Correct.
saying? So you copy it? And then my question is, why did you purchase a couple weeks ago then 3 new servers?
We purchased 1 new server last month.
It said 3 new servers to bill. It said 3 servers. Is it from Gov Connection? Is it there ready to purchase that?
Yes, we purchased 1 server and a whole slew of parts because their invoices list every last part. You buy a box for the server, then you buy 6 hard drives and they come in listed separately. Then you buy the operating system, and we need 4 licenses of Windows, 1 for each server, so that's listed 4 times, that type of thing. But I'd be happy to go through those invoices with you in your office. It is 1 physical server, Commissioner.
That what came into this building?
It said 3 servers though.
I'd be happy to go over that with you and go through it.
And so you didn't say, okay, so there's not 3 servers.
It's
Because
not.
my next question was, a server costs now these days like $1,000 and under $1,000. And I think each of them was like $4,000.
Well, the 1 server,
But you said it was no servers, it was only 1.
one physical server. And again, we had 4 licenses of the operating system because it is electronically being used as 4 servers, and per Microsoft's licensing agreement, we have to have 1 operating system license per virtual server.
So how much is a license then?
I'm going off the top of my head, but I'm thinking $600, $700. And then we also needed the license for the email for exchange. Again, all that's listed out from Gov Connection, and I'd be happy to sit down and go through it with you and explain each and every charge with you.
Okay. Any further questions?
No.
What is your relationship with the IT committee?
I am part of the IT committee. The IT committee hasn't really done much since Robin Reed left, because she
Yep.
kind of spearheaded that. Nobody's really taken over running with it.
Okay.
I believe we had a meeting scheduled for last month. We did, actually, and we sat down and we got a presentation from DocStar for document management. And that was the main focus of that meeting, but we just kind of went over everything else as to what's going on.
Okay, I think the Board of Commissioners will be looking at planning ahead, whether it's 5 years or whether it's 10 years down the road. Can you put together something regarding IT for the whole complex as we move 5 years and 10 years, what we're going to need each year so that we can properly budget for it?
Absolutely. I can give you a basic overview for the infrastructure. Keep in mind, there's no way to predict what new products may come online that various departments may want or
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
and that'll be
But for planning
separate budgeting.
purposes, for our equipment that may be getting outdated and needs to be replaced on an annual basis, if you could do that for us, it would be great. And I think it would be good if you could meet with the IT committee to discuss what you feel needs to be done over that period of time. Janice, do you have a listing of all those people on the IT
I do.
committee?
Yeah, the last meeting that we had, it was more Kronos related and DocStar. But I have asked for an inventory of all of the machines that we have, all of
Right.
the equipment currently, as well as the
Yeah.
replacement plan.
Okay.
My inventory is outdated at this point. I need to get that updated with everything that we've swapped out.
Okay, okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
We don't get the original receipts from you, and you purchase parts for the county. And some parts, the warranties are 3 to 5 years. How are we know that we're getting the parts, the warranty for 3 to 5 years?
That all comes from the manufacturer.
So are we getting the paperwork for the warranty? Because you make up your own bills and you put Cybertron on, because I asked
But
the other,
Those bills came from GovConnection, those didn't come from me.
I don't talk about GovConnection yet, also other bills, what said Cybertron, and actually
What?
if we're getting the original bills, and you said no, we're getting yours only. You put your company on it. But if there are warranties, how do we know if there are warranties? Some parts are 3 to 5 years.
Anything that would be under warranty, I would deal with the manufacturer or the vendor that they came from and make sure that they were covered under warranty.
I guess
Keep in mind that any parts that I use for service purposes are covered under your contract anyway.
Do you have a
For
list?
instance, the hard drive that I replaced on your email server last month, that I paid for that myself. That was
Do
covered
you-
under your contract, as well as all the labor. It did not cost the county a single penny.
I guess the question, if I understand it right, how do we know whether something is warranted or not, and for how long? If it comes, if I understand it correctly, and I'm talking off the top of my head now, you submit a bill to us for a piece of equipment or a part. How do we know whether it's warranted or not?
Every part comes with a warranty. It depends on the part. Some as little as 90 days, some as many as 3 years. Rarely, but occasionally 5.
Yeah.
That's all handled with the various manufacturers, and quite simply, I know which manufacturers have what, and if anything was under warranty, I would send it back to them. That's such a small part of
So-
IT in this world.
So what you're saying is you handle it, and we don't know what it is?
As your IT department, that is part of my job, is to make sure I deal with that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but if you submitted bills from Cybertron, and I asked you, I think maybe a month ago, if we're getting the receipts, so we can see if there's warranty or not, but you said no, you get only this Cybertron, so I didn't know if it is really warranty or not. What if we
Well, that
have
would be
after?
no
what if
different
we
than the
have
parts
after-
purchased from GovConnection.
Yeah, excuse me, what if we have after a couple years, another contractor, and he's going to repair something, and maybe it is under warranty for 5 years?
You would do exactly what I do with the pieces that I inherited, is that I would look at the part in question, look up the serial number.
But
with
we
the
have none of
manufacturer.
those.
The serial number is on the part itself, as well as the manufacturer's information, and I would go to the manufacturer.
But
Would it-
you say a month ago you submitted your bills. It said Cybertron on your bills. And you said to go to the manufacturers. We don't get that information while you purchase your stuff.
That information is on the part, Commissioner.
Would it be helpful that the bills that you submit, there's further documentation on that bill?
I guess the question would be, what bills are we talking about?
I
mean, it's kind of a hypothetical bill. You know, my,
Go ahead.
You know, Mr. Rich has a contract with this county. It's none of our business what he pays for his product. That's how he
That's
makes
right.
his money.
Right.
And he doesn't, has no reason in this world that he should have to submit a copy from his manufacturer to him. If we have any problem with his contract, it's with him, not with the manufacturer. And for us to waste our time trying to get him to give us a copy of what he purchased isn't useful time.
I'm not concerned about the money, I'm concerned about the warranty.
Well, it's the same thing. He's got the contract, he's purchased the material, and
Well, the-
he's holding the warranty for us.
Yeah, and what, yeah, he's holding it, and what if we have after a couple of years somebody else, and what then? Are we going to get the bills then, and suddenly the manufacturer stuff, how long the warranty is? What if we have another contractor and repairs are made at certain things here, and we're paying the new contractor for all the repairs, and we have maybe warranty for 5 years?
Well, per the terms of the contract, you wouldn't be paying them for them parts anyway.
No, you didn't know
Those-
what contract somebody else is getting.
Okay.
So do you have a list? You said you pay everything, so you pay the replacement parts. Do you have a list from
What
them?
parts are we talking about?
You said you, all the replacement part, that is what you're paying. Do you have a list what you replace, the parts that you replaced?
You
That's-
must, John, you must have the invoices you've sent to us.
We didn't send you any
No,
invoices.
but
That's
what
the-
did
That's
I-
the point of a contract.
I like to know
A
what you
contract-
replaced.
Okay. Go ahead.
The point, part of this contract is that I supply any parts necessary to repair anything that breaks.
And you don't, well, I guess I used the wrong term. You don't give us a work order so that we know
No,
what
it's
you've
it's
replaced.
strictly handled under contract.
But,
You know, part of the reason of having a contract is to reduce my paperwork and reduce my time doing this. Yes, we do know what we've used for parts along the way, for major parts anyways. Small parts, like I replaced some printer rollers and things like that. I don't inventory that stuff. It's not worth my time.
Well, Commissioner Kenney, I think, has a valid point. If we were to change vendors 2 years down, how are we going to be protected with a warranty, you no longer...
Say
work-
hypothetically a hard drive
Okay.
failed. And I'm the person who now has to look at this hard drive. What I would do, and I would expect any of my competition or future technicians to do, I would look at the actual hard drive. The manufacturer's name is on there, as well as the serial number of that hard drive. I can go to the manufacturer's website, and it will tell me whether that part is under warranty or not.
Okay.
If it is, I contact that manufacturer and deal with the warranty. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Anybody who comes in here after me has that same ability as I do. So, you know,
Okay.
warranties are all very well recorded by each and every manufacturer. They can tell you simply by a serial number whether it's under warranty or not, and if it is, you would deal with it.
Okay, so
Okay.
you'll, go ahead. Are you?
No, I think that explains it.
Are you, you're working on an inventory now of all our
All
equipment?
computers, yes, I am.
Okay, and it'll be by date as to
Yes.
when it was replaced?
I will
So
give-
that the IT committee would then know?
We can discuss a replacement plan as part of
Okay.
that committee, yes.
Okay, good. Anything else?
yeah, I have one last thing. The server that you replaced, that was a replacement too, eh? The server. You replaced the server?
No, it was
Isn't
an
that-
upgrade. I mean, yes, technically it's replaced, but it's an upgrade.
Okay, thank you very much. Who we got here?
I don't know, but it's a crowd.
Yeah. We do have a schedule of 10:15 or 10:30, a non-public session. We have on the agenda at 10 o'clock Commissioners' Work Session. Commissioners' Work Session, as was explained last week, is where the Commissioners can talk about items that need to be talked about for the future, things, projects, or whatever we need to get into. The public is welcome to stay and listen. It's not for public comments, it's for Commissioners' work.
We
I-
had that before this, so we don't let these people wait. Are they coming on for non-public?
Not sure. I know the jail is, and I know Janice is. Should we go into non-public and hold off on the work session? Any comments?
That's a
Should
tough
we go into
one.
non-public?
Yeah,
Or do we go into, or should we go into public comment?
How long is the work session? Because we have them waiting here. I think
That
everyone is
can
here.
go,
That can go on.
that can go on, yeah. I would suggest that we open it up for non-public comments and then go into non-public session for personnel. So, we'll open it up for non-public comments.
Non-public comments, you mean
I mean, public
comments?
comments, I'm sorry. Public comments. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Did we create a new, or was there a new position created in the sheriff's department?
Could you explain more in detail what you're talking about?
Oh, there was an assistant sheriff introduced this morning?
Yes.
Is that a new position?
No. No, it was a position that was, I haven't had a chance to talk with the sheriff, but the previous second in command was Lieutenant Santuccio. Whether he's changed that or not, I don't know.
Well, I believe he mentioned that Lieutenant Santuccio is still here.
Yeah?
So if we have Lieutenant Santuccio from before and now we have an assistant sheriff, and if we have a new position, have these funds been approved by the delegation yet?
I am not sure that a new position has been formed. This is the first I heard of it. The first I was introduced this morning to this new person. We'll follow up on it.
We'll report back next week.
Commissioner Kenney can follow up on it. She's responsible for the sheriff's department.
All right. And the county list for the nursing home? Where do we
County
stand
list.
on that?
That's still being worked on by a committee, apparently. You mean the admissions list, right?
Yes, for the
Yeah.
county
Say
residents.
something,
Yep.
David?
You want to talk about it?
Yeah. Steve, he was in here this morning and talked about it. Were you not in here?
Yeah, I was in here.
He's working now on modifying it for hospice patients. Yes, they are working on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Believe me, I ask him every time I see him.
Okay.
How he's coming along with a list.
All right. And an IT inventory. My understanding, there isn't one. I believe there should be one, and each piece of equipment should also be assigned a serial number. Because all this equipment is county property.
Yep, that's right. I think we have one. I think we need to update it because there are some replacements that were made.
So, I mean, but I think we should have an inventory, and each piece should be assigned a serial number.
Yep,
Because
and where it's
just
located.
For budgeting purposes, to know what you have, how
Yep.
old it is, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
And also, I think that the commissioners are the only ones who legally can dispose of county property.
That's right.
So I'm not, if someone's disposing of county property without board approval, I think the commissioners should look into taking care of if they're getting rid of county property.
Yep. You ought to comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, and Steve is correct, about 6 years ago or 8 years ago, the delegation directed the commissioners, you were one, or the last one that was here, to come up with an inventory list, as you recall, and to keep it up to date.
Yep.
And that's something that we should get on right away and have each one of the department heads do what they have to do in their departments to find out what physical equipment they have there, whether it's computers or drive-in bathtubs or whatever they have. And
Janice,
keep the
do we have a
up to
list?
date.
I've asked for that.
What's that?
I've asked John Rich for
Okay.
an inventory, and I've offered to request of each department head to put it
Yeah.
down. He said no, he's got all the information.
I have
But
a
that-
comment.
oh.
Go
Why
ahead.
are we not having an independent agency or person coming in and give us an update and look what we have, rather than having the contractor go over everything itself and doing it and said, that is what we need and not. And just here, he is not going to waste his time, he said, on paperwork to put down everything what he replaced. But we don't know now what he said he replaced it on a contract with his own money. But what part is he replacing? I mean, if he's replacing certain parts, I like to know too. If it's breaking down, if it's breaking down in 6 months or a year or in 2 years, I like to know what is new, what he replaced himself.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked for an update, an inventory update, in that
Yeah, but
he worked
said
with the
he's-
IT committee. The IT committee is the committee that actually looked at the bids that came in and decided which bid would be appropriate. So we look, I think the Board of Commissioners, unless you've got a different idea, we look to the IT committee to give us that information. Okay?
But this
Ed, go ahead, Ed.
About disposing of property,
Yeah.
it should also include not disposing of hard drives. Is the IT person wiping hard drives without you knowing he's wiping hard drives? If you're responsible for disposing it, that information on those computers could be used as evidence for grievance investigations, and that information is important. I don't think you should be out of the loop in the information that's on the computers.
Okay.
So along with also inventorying, it should also be that that information should not be destroyed.
Okay.
Especially if we have in the finance department, if we have hard drives and we have all our numbers there, it should not be disposed.
Okay, go ahead.
Ed, I'm not a IT expert by any means, so I've got to ask you, didn't this contract that we purchased here a while back to put the stuff in the clouds and save it, isn't this information gone from those hard drives to the backup source that we paid for?
You would have to ask the IT guy. He may be doing that, he may be backing up, or he may not be. The fact you don't know that would tell me that it needs to be looked into.
Well, I wasn't a commissioner till last week, so I don't know, but I agree with you, it should be backed up somewhere.
Thank you.
Dave?
Okay, Daymond?
Yeah, you described there was an email from the Commissioner of Department of Human Services regarding TRICAP.
Right.
I was wondering if we could make that public, or if I could get a copy.
It was just a case where he had contacted the New Hampshire Association of Counties to find out if there were any resources in the 3 northern counties that could help the financial crisis that CAP is involved in. That's all it was. Didn't say anything else, just asked if there were any resources.
Still, I'd like to see it if we can.
Okay.
Nothing to hide in it.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Last week's agenda, there were 2 items on last week's agenda.
Yep.
But yet, I'm looking at 3.5 pages of things that were discussed, well beyond the 2 items that were on the agenda.
Yep.
To have a public meeting, things have to be posted on an agenda so that you can discuss at a public meeting. I find there's a lot of material here that wasn't on the agenda that was discussed at a public meeting, and that's not the way that it's supposed to be done.
That's covered by this right here now.
What's that?
It'll be covered by our discussion, Commissioner's discussion period.
Okay.
Yes, you're right. I think the agenda said organizational.
Organization and swearing in, those were the only 2 things on the agenda.
It's good that you brought it up because I mistakenly voted for the December 5th public minutes, and I want to change my vote into absent.
December 5th?
Yep.
Okay.
Is there a reason why all these things were discussed that weren't on the agenda?
Yes.
Those are the items. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I brought them up.
But they're not on the agenda.
I consider, Mr. Brown, this a meeting, and And if we have to come in here every day and put down every single thing we're gonna speak about here, we'll never get anything accomplished. We're running a $27 million business, and we have to have a little bit of latitude from you folks in the crowd. Yes, we were swearing in and organizational. What I brought up was, as far as I consider, the 6 points is about organizing the meetings in a better way.
Well,
I don't know how it got recorded in the minutes, but I had 6 items. I left it here for the public so that they were well aware of what we were going to discuss. And we just can't function that way, Steve, if we're going to have to come in here and there's only 2 things that we can talk about.
Well, latitude fine, Commissioner Babson, but, you know, when you go 3.5 pages beyond 2 items listed on the agenda, that's the whole purpose for public notice. And without that, the public is unaware of what's going on if there's no public notice of it.
Oh, is that maybe why you didn't believe you were not here?
That's right, that's why, because I only saw 2 items on the agenda, so I thought, well, maybe it's gonna be a 5 or 10 minute meeting, so
okay. So
I didn't attend because these things were not placed on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Had they been placed on the agenda, I would have attended the meeting.
Okay. Your point is noted.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Melissa?
Not to answer for you, but I believe the only requirement for public meetings is that you post the date, time, and place. You don't have to post anything that's going to be discussed. RSA 91A2 says notice of the time and place of any meeting shall be posted in 2 appropriate places 24 hours before the meeting.
Right.
Good.
So what's your point?
Your minutes have to include what actually happened, but your agenda doesn't. I was just offering that as a point of information.
In the agenda, what we're discussing, we just have to say where it is and what time.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I also wanted to ask if you had a chance to review the document you received regarding forming a capital improvement committee for the county.
We have it right here, and we were going to discuss that in the work session.
David? We also discussed it in the subcommittee on Monday. We had some discussion and everybody thought it was a good idea.
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
Did you hear that?
I did.
Okay. Any further public input? David?
I'm just wondering how we could get a copy of that email I asked about. Is that something that I can get from the business office, or is that something I can have to
It's
wait
on
for?
my desk. I'll have to get it for you.
Okay,
We can send you a copy of it.
great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No further public input. Janice, help me out. We're going into non-public for what purpose?
Well, there is a jail personnel matter, but also a non-meeting legal consultation.
Okay.
So we need a motion to go into non-public. So I make a motion to go into non-public for a personnel jail. Is there a second?
Second.
Second?
All those in support of the motion say aye.
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 Roll call, Commissioner Bobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenney, yes.
So voted then.
You seconded, huh? Did you
Yeah.
second it? Okay.